Hello and welcome to Fight News Now. I'm your host, John Pollock, and for the next 30 minutes, we're going to be tackling all of the major stories happening this week in the sport. Stopping by the program today will be UFC welterweight Tyron Woodley, Ben Askren, Ian McCall, and we're also going to hear from Jim Ross. John Ramdine and Robin Black are set for 3 rounds of analysis, and Priscilla Carapan has comic news for boxing fans on the ship. As usual, we kick off the show with this week's newsmakers. Fresh off a doubleheader this past weekend, the UFC only has one card this weekend with their first show in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is chock full of fighters from the Jackson Winklejohn and MMA Lab camps, as the main event will pit the 2 camps opposite one another with lightweights Benson Henderson and Reinhard-Khabilov, who will meet, and we take a closer look at this main event.
For 1 year, 7 months, and 5 days, Benson Henderson stood atop the lightweight division as the UFC champion, and all was good for the MMA Lab student. Of his 3 title defenses, 2 came by split decision, but none of that mattered as long as he was the champ.
I'm very aware of how small fighting really matters. In the grand scheme of things, you know, really, I mean, wife, kids, family, seriously, fighting, there's a lot bigger things in life.
Then along came Anthony Pettis, taking the fight against the champ at UFC 164 on short notice. Unlike their first bout, which was a 5-round instant classic, Smooth would submit to a first-round armbar, handing him the dreaded 2 losses to the champ label. His next bout would come against surging Josh Thompson. However, another controversial split decision win has done little to move him back towards title contention. So now the former champion will face a largely unknown, but very skilled opponent in the main event on Saturday night. Reinhard-Khabilov may not be a household name in the US, but with a 17-1 record and 3 straight wins inside the octagon, he is a definite threat to Henderson. The World Combat Sambo champion made his debut against Vince Pichel and quickly finished him with a devastating suplex. After a quick win via injury over Yancy Medeiros,
here we can see it right there. Oh yeah, very clear.
He was matched up against former Strikeforce title challenger Jorge Masvidal. In a back-and-forth battle, Khabilov showed off excellent striking and scored the decision win as well as Fight of the Night honors. Henderson has faced the tougher opponents, however on paper this one seems very even. The X factor could be the cardio department. Henderson has gone 5 rounds in 5 of his past 6 bouts, and hasn't really slowed in any of them, while Khabilov has yet to see the championship rounds. Can Henderson hand the Russian his first defeat inside the octagon, or will Khabilov upset the former champion and push himself into the title mix?
The UFC returned to Germany this past Saturday, and perhaps the best performance coming out of the weekend's double bill was that of Gegard Mousasi, who outmuscled and submitted Mark Munoz in the opening round. It was a strong rebound after his loss to Lyoto Machida earlier this year, and with this newfound momentum, Mousasi is looking to build upon it quickly and was throwing out names of other middleweights he has his eyes on.
I think coming from a win, I'm going to get a winner. So it's going to be Kennedy, Luke Rockhold, or anyone who's coming off a win and is maybe a contender. So that's why I think I will get one of those guys, but I don't know. I'm not challenging anyone.
UFC flyweight Ian McCall will be returning to action on July the 19th when he takes on Brad Pickett in Ireland. In preparation for this fight, McCall was invited to Hawaii to help prepare BJ Penn for his upcoming fight with Frankie Edgar, and we hear from Uncle Creepy about the experience of training and assisting the former UFC lightweight champion.
He had better cardio than I did. You know, he lasted better over 5 rounds than I did, which was like, by the end, I was like, dude, this sucks. You know, and he wants me to kick a lot, because Frankie kicks a lot, and, you know, do the stuff, but the guy's incredible. You know, kickboxing, great. His wrestling is awesome. He was doing the same type of, like, foot sweeps and shit that I was doing everybody else, so, like, have fun, you know? And he hit him on me, and I remember just, like, you feel like you're 220 pounds when you're on top of me, jiu-jitsu-wise. Like, he's so good. I've always admired the guy, and it was just an honor to train with him.
Ben Askren has resorted to playing matchmaker following his ONE FC debut by goading Mike Ricci on Twitter, stating he would be able to beat both Ricci and teammate Rory McDonald, and that is our tweet of the week as Askren looks to get under the skin of the TriStar teammates. The man that will get to step into the cage with Rory MacDonald is American Top Team's Tyron Woodley, who will look to build on his recent victory over Carlos Condit when he meets MacDonald next weekend at UFC 174 in Vancouver. Woodley was a guest on the MMA Report and certainly gave the indication that he was promised a title fight with a win over MacDonald, and now that title opportunity has been reserved for the winner of the Robbie Lawler-Matt Brown fight in July, leaving Woodley out in the cold.
This kid has been deemed by many to be the future of the division, and I really believe that he has a skill set, he has a mentality, he has a killer instinct. It's a great style matchup. I plan on going out there and putting on a great show, and hopefully that, in addition to the fact that I was 100% told that this is a title shot in the picture. So, Dana White's been known to say one thing and do another, so I'm just hoping that I can sway his mind with the performance that we have June 14th. What I can't allow to happen is the distraction from that bout of Matt Brown and Robbie Lawler being announced to distract me from Rory MacDonald. So I'm focusing on Rory. I committed to the bout. Unlike some other people, I'm a man of my word, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to put on the best performance I can. That's the only thing I can control, and I think everything will fall into place after that.
Filthy Tom Lawler will make his return to the octagon on July 19th in Dublin, Ireland, following major knee surgery that has kept him out of action since April of last year. Lawler will be moving up to 205 pounds for this fight, a weight he is much happier to be competing at, as he will take on Ilir Latifi in his first fight back. Lawler chatted with me about the decision to move up in weight and getting to fight the tough Latifi.
Well, I told them that I would fight at 185 or 205. Before my last fight against Michael Kuiper, as I was cutting weight, I got really sick and was throwing up the night before, essentially passed out after cutting weight. And luckily, I was able to wake up and cut the weight, but it's not a situation that I want to go through ever again. I'm looking forward to this opportunity. I've been able to get stronger as I've been training, which is not necessarily always the case. It's a challenge for me. It's something new, and it's got my interest going at 100%.
And finally, we check in with former WWE executive and broadcaster Jim Ross, who recently made his boxing commentary debut. Ross was here in studio, and after discussing the Chael Sonnen dynamic on Tough Brazil, we began discussing the UFC's need to keep creating marketable stars and finding unique ways to present fighters to the mass audience and creating an awareness for them.
The only way you're going to get really successful, the only way you're going to get back to relevance or like boxing, or you're going to get better like WWE or UFC, is to have stars that the fans can identify with in some way, and that then they make that all-important emotional investment in, so that I need to see this individual participate in these fights and to compete. Any pay-per-view, whether it be boxing or pro wrestling or MMA, is attraction-driven. It's not driven by the brand. It's driven by the fighters and the fight. It's pretty simple. The recent Mayweather fight, all I cared about was Floyd. And either you love Floyd or you don't like Floyd. So you either pay your money to see Floyd continue to win, or you pay your money to see somebody knock Floyd out. In the wrestling vernacular, Floyd is a babyface to some, and he's a heel to others. The bottom line is that you care. If you go to a fight in Brazil, or watch a fight from Brazil, and the Brazilian fights a Canadian, who's getting booed? The Canadian. So the Brazilian is the babyface in wrestling vernacular, and the Canadian, in this case, is the bad guy. It's a nationalistic angle. It's worked for years. It's human nature how that works out, but it all comes back to having stars. And the biggest challenge for any entity that's in the ring, a ring or an octagon, whatever your surface is developing new, keyword, new stars.
And I'm here with John Ramdian, and John, we got to make it quick. We only have 35 seconds, or the length of a Fabio Maldonado main event against Stipe Miocic. What is coming up on 3 rounds with yourself and Robin Black?
We're talking, of course, about Fight Night coming up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We'll tell you which fighters and which fights will have title implications.
If you don't know what's happening on Saturday in Albuquerque, New Mexico, this man is your hookup on the other side when Fight News Now continues with 3 rounds. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Fight News Now. John Pollock here with you, and it's time for me to tag out and welcome in John Ramdine and Robin Black. As this Saturday, guys, the UFC is going to be going to the home of Walter White with the big question, can Rustam-Khabilov break Bendo?
Holy smokes. I love this main event. Ben Henderson, one of the top competitors in the 155-pound division. This guy knows how to win. Obviously going to be taking on Rustam-Khabilov in the main event, but you look at this entire fight card. On the undercard, Rafael dos Anjos taking on Jason High, Eve Edwards on the card taking on Peter Hallman, Eric Perez, Brian Caraway, Scott Jorgensen, Sergio Pettis. A stellar card and a great main event. Ben Henderson, I think the difference in this fight, Khabilov never gone 5 rounds. Ben Henderson gone 5 rounds 7 times in his mixed martial arts career. Is that a key to victory?
You know what? For Ben Henderson, that is almost always the key to victory. And it is one of the things that makes this guy fantastic, is his ability, his gas tank, his drive, his unbreakability. They're just mentally so good. And he doesn't really take a lot of damage. He puts himself in positions to hurt you without being hurt. At the end of 25 minutes, he's almost always the victor.
For Khabilov, his biggest victory of his mixed martial arts career coming over George Masvidal. But you look at the guys that Ben Henderson has faced over his career, a murderer's row. And I think when you compare the talent, you have to give the edge to Ben Henderson. Even when he loses fights, he still wins them on paper. I know a lot of people believe that he lost the fights with Gilbert Melendez and Josh Thompson, and both of his fights with Frankie Edgar. But he has such a style which kind of convinces the judges, because he's so active, he's so mobile, he doesn't get hit a whole lot. And even when he is defending, he looks like he's offensive. So it's going to be a very difficult night for Rustam-Khabilov.
What you're saying is true, but it raises another point, and I want to talk to Ben Henderson about this directly. Ben, would you meet me over at camera 3? Hi, Ben. How you doing? Listen, pal, we love you. Guys like Ramdine and me, we know how good you are. You cannot be stopped. You cannot be forced to take a step backward. You're always driven. But Ben, my friend, you don't have to listen to me. You got one of the best coaches in the business in Crouch. But man, this isn't just about winning. If you get that chance, you get this guy hurt, or you get a hold of his neck, finish this mother... You know, you got to get this thing done, man.
Ben Henderson, very, very creative with his attack. He's got great dexterity, great balance. For Khabilov, kind of a different style, because you see, right now in 2014, we know it works in mixed martial arts, guys. Their jiu-jitsu skills, their Thai boxing skills, their conditioning, their wrestling. But for Khabilov, he comes in with that combat sambo background. How is that different than traditional mixed martial arts?
Well, first of all, Ben Henderson, what makes him great is just being Ben Henderson. What he's always done has always worked, and it always will. So you have to beat him. He doesn't need to beat you. How can Khabilov do it? Well, that combat sambo background is really different. He trains in something they call hand-to-hand combat, which is just combat. Sambo, pancration, boxing, kickboxing. He's been a multiple martial artist his whole life. So dealing with range, dealing with changing of ranges, and getting into the range to be able to use his great throws and suplexes, get you to the ground and attack your legs, that's something he's doing his whole career. He's been a mixed martial artist through the world of combat sambo from the first time he punched somebody in the face.
Khabilov going to be peaking on the same night as his teammates Diego Sanchez and John Dodson. And you know, if anybody's going to push it, John Dodson is the guy. Just a serious gas tank. And you would expect that Khabilov would be served very well by training with John Dodson and Diego Sanchez, who are known for their conditioning.
Yeah, Khabilov's having a really good camp is really important. He needs the little guys to push him for speed, to keep him active and to keep him busy. And he needs the big guys to remind him of how much he uses power and strength and his confidence in his physicality. And he'll be ready, man.
Diego Sanchez taking on Ross Pearson. Diego, we haven't seen too many improvements since him winning the Ultimate Fighter. We know what he's good at. He comes forward, tries to use his boxing skills. If that doesn't go his way, he closes the distance and tries to get you on the ground and unleashes some of the most beautiful ground and pound in all of mixed martial arts. Sure, if he has his opportunity and the submission is there, he will go for it. But Diego Sanchez, relentless with his ground and pound. I have a feeling that Ross Pearson's going to be able to stuff that takedown. Will Diego Sanchez utilize cage control if he can't get the takedown?
Yeah, that's a good strategy, is put Ross Pearson on the cage, because Diego Sanchez is an attribute-based fighter. That means, yes, his skills are good. Yeah, he works on everything. His wrestling in particular is good at times, but really it's his attributes: strength, speed, but in his case, heart and guts and will and drive and that mentality, that unbreakable mentality that never stops. He wins every third round of every fight he's ever been in, and even beyond, other than when he was kicked in the head by AJ Penn in the fifth.
Yeah, right.
But for the most part, he is going and going and going. But there's a blueprint on how to beat him now, and that is make him miss and counter. You know, we've seen that in his last couple of fights. He's coming off a couple losses for the first time in a long time, and men were moving their head, forcing him when he come forward, step out on angles, and drill him. Ross Pearson was beat like that by Cub Swanson. So when you lose a fight that way, sometimes you come back and you want to master that. I see Ross Pearson mastering that sooner than Diego Sanchez does.
The 125-pound tilt, and it is a good one. A rematch from 2010. John Dodson taking on John Moraga. As I mentioned, John Dodson training with Diego Sanchez and the main eventer, Khabilov. But for his opponent, John Moraga, he has the opportunity to train with Ben Henderson, who is known for his conditioning skills. What do you anticipate in this matchup? Is it as simple as John Dodson keeps this fight standing and looks for the knockout? I believe he has 7 on his resume. And Moraga, will he look for the takedown and look for some sort of submission on the ground?
I think that's the cut and dry approach, man. I just broke down Demetrius Johnson. Next Monday on 5 Rounds, I got a cool breakdown on him. John Dodson, his fight with DJ was my favorite of the lot. He won rounds 1 and 2 very soundly. He had explosive power. He dropped Mighty Mouse a couple of times. He is the favorite. He's fast, he's explosive, he's powerful. But Moraga, much like Sanchez, lots of heart and lots of grit. If he gets his hands on this guy early, puts him down and grinds him, he has a shot at winning this too.
Mr. Pollock, I would imagine that you're picking John Dodson in this fight. Very, very talented. Went the distance with DJ.
Knocked out TJ.
Yeah, knocked out TJ Dillashaw, the new bantamweight champion. So you would expect.
I am picking John Dodson, but the main event, I am leaning Khabilov for the big upset on
Will he
Saturday
get a title
night.
shot if he impresses and stops Ben Henderson, though?
I would be very surprised if he stops him, but I think that May has been the month of the upset, so I'm riding this one. Thank you very much. For more with John and Robin, they will have a full breakdown of Fight Night coming up this Monday on 5 Rounds at 7 Eastern right here on Fight Network. We're taking a short break, but coming up, we've got The Shift and this week's viral video with a great live TV moment. All that still to come on Fight News Now. We're back on Fight News Now, and we have live mixed martial arts coming at you this Saturday on Fight Network, as Cage Warriors 69 is coming at you with Super Saturday with lightweight and middleweight title action topping the card. It all goes down at 4 p.m. Eastern right here on Fight Network, but now it's time to welcome in Priscilla Carapan for The Shift.
Author Reinhard Kleist was recently at the Toronto Comic Arts Festival showcasing his latest graphic novel called The Boxer, the true story of Holocaust survivor Harry Haft. Kleist was recently at the Beguiling, and Corey Erdman got the chance to catch up with him and chat about The Boxer.
Corey Erdman here for The Shift outside the Beguiling in downtown Toronto, where today we're going to learn a little bit more about one of the darkest and most incredible stories in the history of boxing, that of Holocaust survivor Harry Haft. We're going to head inside and talk to Reinhard Kleist, the writer and illustrator of The Boxer, the new 200-page comic on the life of Mr. Haft. So I heard that the idea for this book came when you found the autobiography of Harry Haft in a bookstore. How did that come about?
I had to do research for a series of illustrations about the Holocaust, and I went to my favorite bookstore and I saw the cover of Alan Haft's book. And on the cover you could see that it has to do with boxing and concentration camps, and I couldn't get this together, so I bought the book. I was never really into boxing, but I had to do research for the book, and I wanted to make the scenes where they are fighting very real, and so I went to some boxing events in Berlin, and I was sitting in the audience with my sketchbook, and I was watching the fighters and what the trainers are telling their their fighters.
Was that part maybe the most difficult because there is a lack of footage on Harry?
That was very difficult because I had to find an image for Harry Haft out of just a few photos, and but it also gave me more freedom, and so I had more freedom to give him a very special look.
Perhaps equally as difficult would be kind of playing the character of Harry Haft when you are illustrating him and kind of coming up with his dialogue.
It was not really difficult. Once you are inside the head of your characters in a story, then you imagine how they would talk. And so he was not a very educated man, and he was very rough. And so I gave him a very tough voice, a very rough choose of words, and yeah, he's talking very directly, and he's not making very much complicated sentences or stuff like that.
The perception here would be that something that harkens back to a time that is very dark in your country wouldn't be well received. Is that starting to change?
There are a lot of books dealing with this theme and a lot of movies, so it's not a taboo anymore. What is kind of a taboo that I made in this book is that I choose a very negative character. He was not a really nice guy, and he was killing people, and he was causing problems to his family, so he's not a character that you would easily identify with. Also the idea to deal with the very dark part of the German history from a different angle is also something that very appreciated. And a lot of people told me that their kids are reading the story, although it's very hard, but they found an access to this very dark theme because he's a boxer, and so that they can easily identify with him.
That's it for The Shift this week. Back over to you, John.
Thank you, Priscilla, and time is winding down, so what does that mean? It's time for our weekly viral video, and for this week, we are going back to 1FC 16 from last Friday morning in Singapore for this gym.
From start to finish, we had some tremendous action, didn't we?
Yeah, we absolutely did, and I gotta be honest with you, I don't know what we're doing right now because nobody told me.
We're live.
Oh, bananas!
Yep. We're reviewing the night, Jason. I was just saying,
that's what we're doing.
An incredible piece of action that we've had from start to finish.
Bananas! A seamless recovery, though, from Jason Chambers with a great live television moment. And that brings Fight News Now to a close. I want to thank all of our guests from today's show, Tyron Woodley, Ian McCall, and of course Jim Ross for stopping by. Don't miss Cage Warriors 69 this Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. And on behalf of John Ramdeen, Robin Black, Priscilla Carapan, the Fight Network crew, my name is John Pollock, and we'll talk to you next week on Fight News Now.
Asking for an undefeated Olympic wrestler, Strikeforce champion, makes me somehow a coward? How about the fact that I beat Gustafsson already? Whether you guys like how close it was or not, it's my career, not yours.